entitled action, find the defendant not guilty of the crime of assault by force likely to produce great bodily injury and with a deadly weapon, in violation of Penal Code Section 245A1, a felony, as charged in Count 1 of the amended indictment. This 29th day of April, 1992.
The 1992 civil disturbances were a watershed event in the long history of our great city and the life of the nation as a whole. Whether we lived in Los Angeles at the time or not, many of the images and statistics surrounding the event were seared in our consciousness. The original police stop and widely publicized beating of Rodney King.
When the beating occurred in March of 1991, we knew that this was something that had existed far beyond that night. And Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates said the only thing that he was sorry for was that they used an LAPD helicopter light to disclose the event. We knew that we were in the midst of a culture clash that could bring forth another riot. The times had changed.
The movement of the trial to Simi Valley, an area with a very different relationship to law enforcement than the city of LA, the not guilty verdict for the police officers, and resulting shock that reverberated around the city and the country.
Many people, not only in Los Angeles, but in the state of California and even in the whole country, were waiting for the outcome of the verdict regarding, the Rodney King case. And when the results were announced, everybody were astonished.
We sat there, we looked at each other, we were all in absolute disbelief. And after the disbelief became the sadness of the disappointment that now showed that the system really wasn't doing what we expected it to do.
Then the world watched shock turn into anger as many people registered their protest, and a relatively small number turned to acts of violence, including setting fires, looting, committing violence against their neighbors.
At least 20 to 30 young people throwing rocks. You can hear them impacting against cars and against trucks. I haven't seen any police officers coming here.
But say you're angry, yes. Say you're tired of it and you won't take it anymore, yes. That's why we've asked you to come.
I have vivid memories of driving into Los Angeles that night and seeing the city on fire as the sun was setting. Very, very dramatic.
Seeing the fire, the smoke in the air, and feeling scared for the first time in my life on a level that I had never experienced, and feeling that it was a war zone.
I clearly understood how a community that I live in could be so disappointed and oppressed in many ways, particularly when it comes to socioeconomics and problems with law enforcement, and this occurring over such a long period of time that it actually can erupt in the way it did.
Some people went into the stores and trying to get some goodies or items or something they needed or they always wanted, and they call it a non-conventional shopping spree.
So it was very disturbing to see on TV the media repeating this concept of Black Korean conflict. And what was also very painful was the fact that I saw many of these store owners seeing their life dreams just burned to ashes overnight.
At that time, in '92, there was very little confidence, very little faith in the Los Angeles Police Department. The African American community had been discouraged, disenfranchised with the police department, and we just didn't trust them.
You know, this is often referred to as the Rodney King riots, which I think is a huge misnomer. You know, I think it really was the LAPD riots. I think the Los Angeles Police Department, while not the only cause of the riots, certainly was one of the primary causes.
At the end of the 6 days of unrest, our great city was devastated. 53 people dead and thousands injured. 2,000 people were arrested. An estimated 2,000 businesses destroyed. Between $800 million to $1 billion in property damage.
So clearly the perception was that when it came to the low-income neighborhoods, that certain firefighters displayed, which they did, a level of insensitivity toward the families or people that they were taking care of. And in many cases that almost and did get us into trouble, where the circumstance had to be mitigated with the assistance of the Los Angeles Police Department.
Now that it has been a full 20 years since the disturbances, Los Angelinos are looking back at what happened during that spring of 1992.
As a Korean American, I had lived in the United States over 25 years, and never in my life had I heard the terminology Black Korean conflict.
Latinos and African Americans started to get together and reacting on the streets, and that I won't say that automatically raised the interethnic tensions between Latinos and African Americans, but there was some kind of solidarity that was a very important element in this outcome.
When we talk about progress that has been made, I believe the things that African Americans do that they hadn't done before '92 is be willing to sit in a circle of people who are different than they are, who have different views than they have, and express themselves with honesty and candor.
They are also thinking about how far we have come since then and what lessons we need to keep in mind as we move toward building a more united city.
And now we have a chief of police that is more comprehensive, that have changed the LAPD culture a bit, trying to get closer to the grassroots people, trying to understand the needs and concerns of our different ethnic groups in South Los Angeles, for example.
As a city and as a department, evolved far beyond 1992. That is a time that we won't visit again soon, as long as we remain diligent in this relationship.
I've seen a lot of improvement physically. We've rebuilt a lot of the buildings. My bigger concern is the rebuilding of our spirit. We still seem to be very culturally divided or separate. We don't seem to be growing closer. We seem to be living parallel lives.
Now it's our turn to reflect on the disturbances of 1992 and what they mean for the LA of today and of the future. Our dialogue today will be organized around 4 phases, each with a central theme. Who are we? Where have we been? Where are we now? Where are we going? Let's look at these in more depth. Phase 1. Who are we? Introductions, ground rules, and brief remembrances. In this phase, we will introduce ourselves, add any commentary on the ground rules we think are needed, and offer a brief recollection of one moment of the disturbances that stands out for you. Phase 2. Where have we been? Understanding the background and the impact of the LA civil unrest. In this part of the discussion, we will do our best to have an authentic discussion about the conditions and causes of the disturbances. Our next phase of the dialogue is Phase 3. Where are we now? What are the progress and challenges in community relations and community conditions during the last 2 decades? In this part of the dialogue, we will examine how far we have come since 1992 with respect to relations between groups, how the city relates to populations in the city, and other conditions you think are most relevant. The final phase of the dialogue, Phase 4, Where Are We Going?, focuses on our future. In this phase, we will try to distill the many insights we might have about creating a more unified Los Angeles. At the end of the discussion today, you will have a chance to fill out a short evaluation. The Days of Dialogue group thanks you for giving us your feedback about how to make these events even better. Most important, we thank you for your open mind and your willingness to talk about tough issues in a civil way with your neighbors.